It was one of those cold, gray mornings when even the city seemed tired of itself. The streets were half awake, bathed in a dull drizzle that blurred the lights and painted loneliness on every corner. Inside a small cafe tucked between towering buildings, the aroma of freshly baked bread and coffee tried to fight the gloom outside. Behind the counter, David Miller, the cafe's owner, wiped a mug for the third time, his eyes distant. Business had been slow, bills piled up like bricks on his shoulders. He didn't know how much longer he could keep this place alive, the cafe that had once belonged to his late wife, Anna. Every corner of it whispered her memory, her laughter, her warmth, her dream of making it a place where no one leaves hungry or sad. But dreams are expensive, and reality had a cruel way of breaking the kind ones first. That morning, as the rain began to fall harder, David noticed something unusual. A little girl stood outside the cafe window, barely 10 years old, her clothes soaked, her small hands pressed against the glass. She wasn't looking inside with curiosity. It was desperation. Her lips trembled, her eyes hollow yet hauntingly beautiful. David's heart stung. For a moment, he thought she was just a random passerby seeking shelter, but then she looked directly at him, her gaze pleading silently. He froze. Something about that look felt like a scream trapped in silence. If you believe in kindness, compassion, and second chances, please take a second to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Stories like this remind us that one small act can change a life. He stepped out into the rain, umbrella in hand. The girl didn't move. When he got closer, he realized how fragile she was. Thin, shivering, her shoes torn. "Hey," he said softly, kneeling to her height. She didn't answer at first, just stared at the steaming pastries behind the glass. Her lips quivered, and when she finally spoke, her voice came out as a whisper that broke the air around. "Them. I haven't eaten in 2 days." David felt the words pierce deeper than the cold rain ever could. 2 days. He didn't ask where her parents were. He didn't ask her name. He just extended his hand and said, "Come inside." The little bell above the door chimed as they entered. The cafe was nearly empty. Just a couple of college students typing on laptops and an old man reading the paper. David led her to a corner booth, the warmest spot near the heater. He brought her a cup of hot chocolate and a plate filled with pancakes, eggs, and toast. She looked at it as if afraid it would disappear. For a moment she hesitated, then began to eat, slowly at first, then faster, like someone who had forgotten what comfort tasted like. David stood there watching, his throat tightening. When she was done, she looked up at him with watery eyes and whispered, "Thank you, sir." He smiled faintly. "You can call me David." "What's your name, sweetheart?" "Lily," she said. The name fit her, small, delicate, trying to bloom despite the storm. He didn't press further, but the questions burned in his mind. Why was she alone? Where were her parents? When she started to shiver again, he fetched a dry towel and one of Anna's old sweaters that still hung in the back room. It was a soft cream color, oversized for Lily, but she hugged it as if it were the warmest thing in the world. For the rest of the day, she stayed at the cafe. David gave her a small corner near the kitchen to rest while he worked. Customers came and went, some noticing her but saying nothing. The rain refused to stop. By evening, when he asked if someone was coming to get her, she lowered her head. "Mom's not here anymore," she said. "She got sick. The hospital said—" Her voice trailed off. Tears welled in her eyes. David didn't need her to finish. His chest ached with memories of Anna's hospital bed. The same sterile smell, the same helplessness. He swallowed hard. "And your dad?" he asked gently. She hesitated. He used to work in construction, but he lost his job. We had to leave our apartment. He said he'd find work and come back for me. That was 5 days ago. Silence filled the cafe, heavier than the rain outside. David couldn't speak. He just nodded slowly. He had seen desperation before, but never in a child's eyes. Something inside him shifted. Maybe it was guilt for complaining about his own struggles when this little soul was fighting for survival. That night, after closing up, he offered her the small couch in his office. "Just for tonight," he said. But he knew, deep down, it wouldn't end there. The next morning, Lily helped clean tables, refill sugar jars, and even greeted customers shyly. Her smile, small but genuine, started to bring life back into the cafe. People noticed. Some regulars left a few extra dollars in the tip jar. One lady even bought Lily a new pair of shoes. Days turned into weeks. The cafe began to buzz again, not just with customers, but with warmth, the kind that can't be bought. David didn't realize it at first, but his heart was healing too. Anna's absence had left a hole nothing could fill. Yet somehow Lily's laughter, her innocent questions, her love for drawing little hearts on napkins, it all made the place feel alive again. But not everyone understood. One evening, when a city inspector dropped by, he saw Lily helping behind the counter and frowned. "Is this your employee?" he asked coldly. David tried to explain, but bureaucracy has no heart. The next morning, he received a notice, strict rules, possible penalties for having an unregistered minor in the cafe. Fear gripped him. He couldn't risk losing the business. He spent the night torn apart, one side whispering that he had to let her go for his own survival, the other screaming that he couldn't abandon her like the world already had. When morning came, Lily sensed something was wrong. She looked at him, eyes wide, clutching the sweater he had given her. "Did I do something bad?" she asked softly. That broke him. He knelt down, tears welling. "No, sweetheart, you did everything right. It's just, sometimes the world doesn't understand." She shook her head. "But you said this cafe was where people don't leave hungry or sad." Her words echoed Anna's voice, the very promise they'd made together years ago. David realized then that keeping that promise wasn't about rules or profit. It was about people. It was about doing what was right, even when it cost something. That afternoon, instead of sending Lily away, David did something different. He shared her story, not her pain, but her courage, on the cafe's social media page. He wrote about how kindness can change a day, how sometimes helping one child means saving two souls. He didn't expect much, but within hours the post went viral. Messages flooded in. People offered donations, jobs for her father if he was found, even help from child welfare officers who genuinely cared. Local news covered the story. The cafe became a symbol of hope. 1 week later, a man walked through the door, tired, unshaven, eyes full of guilt. It was Lily's father. When he saw his daughter run into his arms crying, the whole cafe fell silent. David stood there, hands trembling. The man turned to him, choking on words. "Sir, thank you. I tried so hard to find work. I didn't want her to suffer. You saved her." David smiled faintly. "No," he said softly, "she saved me." The next few days were a blur of joy and tears. Lily and her father found shelter with the help of the community. David kept in touch, sometimes dropping by to bring her favorite pastries. The cafe, once struggling to survive, now thrived. Not because of business, but because of the love that had poured in from every corner of the city. But the story didn't end there. Months later, a letter arrived. It was from Lily. Her handwriting was messy, but the words glowed with purity. "Dear Mr. David, thank you for giving me food when I was hungry, and hope when I was scared. Mom used to say, angels don't have wings, they just have kind hearts. I think she was right, because you're one." David read the letter over and over until tears blurred the ink. He placed it in a small frame next to Anna's picture on the cafe wall. Beneath it, he hung a wooden sign that read, "No one leaves hungry or sad." The rain outside that day sounded different, softer, like a lullaby. The cafe glowed with laughter again, and David finally understood that kindness doesn't just feed the stomach. It feeds the soul. And sometimes all it takes is listening to the smallest whisper in the rain. If this story touched your heart, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Every bit of engagement helps spread kindness and keep stories like this alive. Comment below. Kindness still exists. If you believe one small act can truly change someone's life,